the chairperson of the Breastfeeding and Birth and Breastfeeding Conference. Welcome to the first session. I'd like to introduce you Dr. Jack Newman, the international expert. I'm sure you all know, but I'll just add something that you might or might not know. Dr. Jack Newman is a Canadian physician specialized in breastfeeding support and advocacy. He has written articles, books, and produced videos about breastfeeding distributed through breastfeeding resource centers and websites. He founded the first hospital-based breastfeeding clinic in Canada in 1984. And every time I say this, I like to add it's 1 year before I was born.
There's only one way to stop from getting old.
He has been a consultant for UNICEF for a baby-friendly hospital initiative, evaluating the first candidate hospitals in Gabon, in Ivory Coast, and Canada. He wrote several books that assisted and benefited breastfeeding experts, healthcare providers, parents, and everyone who wants to learn more in depth of breastfeeding. In July 2018, Dr. Newman, along with his co-author, Andrea Volokova, published the book. It's titled Breastfeeding, Empowering Parents. It is available both as an ebook and as a paperback. His website has a lot of information on breastfeeding, and in particular video clips that we all use. I think we keep sharing Dr. Jack Newman's videos because that help mothers understand breastfeeding better. For video clips and explanatory text in English, you can go to www.ibconline.ca, and you will see many of the videos today, and they will be available as well. We will start, and we hope you enjoy and benefit from the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here in where am I? Kuwait. Oops, we just lost it again. All right. I am very pleased to be here. We had some exciting times over the last couple of days, and I am very pleased and happy that Nadella is no longer involved in this conference. I think that we have all learned a lesson because really Nadella is a very, very aggressive violator of the WHO International Code on breastfeeding. And so I think that it is a wonderful thing that has happened. The fact that I was coming to this conference apparently went viral on social media, and then I hope the fact that we worked this out and Nadella is no longer here will also go viral and let people know that Birth Kuwait did the right thing. And not because of pressure from the world, but because they realized it was the right thing, not from pressure. So let us get started. I was hoping we could turn off these lights and dim the lights in the front here. What happened here now?
This is cool.
It just needs videos. Videos, whatever.
Buttons.
Yep, there we go. Okay. Yeah, first. Okay. So, I hope nobody minds this photo, but it's a very important one. And what I think that it shows is that we have a problem with breastfeeding. And one of the problems with breastfeeding, perhaps the major problem with breastfeeding, is that too many health professionals, particularly pediatricians, believe that the only important thing is the weight of the baby. And there are problems with weighing babies and making decisions about breastfeeding by the weight of the baby. So, what you see here is a baby, and unfortunately it's very hard to see, but the baby weighs 3.51 kilos. Okay? A decent weight for a 3-week-old. But what we did is we took the same baby and we put the baby on another scale that was in our office. And what did we find? The same baby 1 minute later, put on a different scale, now weighs 3.11 kilos. In other words, the baby lost 400 grams in 1 minute. Now you know that this is not possible. There is a problem here, and the problem is the baby, is the scale. Scales often are very different, one from the other. People also make mistakes. People write down 3.51 kilos when it is actually 3.11 kilos, or vice versa. People make mistakes. I know you don't believe this, but it's true. And not only will they take down the name of the weight of the baby, they may take it down right, but transfer it to the chart incorrectly. About a month ago, we had one baby in our clinic who gained 1 kilo in 1 week. Now, does anybody believe that? No, of course not. It just doesn't happen. So we base everything on the scale, but the scale is very wrong. Often, not always, but often. And so when we compare two different scales, we start to have problems with breastfeeding. But there are big issues here. In much of the world, it seems, that everybody considers 10% weight loss a very important factor in evaluating the adequacy of breastfeeding in the first few days. This is simply not true. There is no evidence for this. And because we depend on the scale, we often start supplementing babies when it's not necessary. Or we don't help the mother with the breastfeeding when there is really a problem, because the baby only lost 2%. But the scales can often be wrong. But not only are the scales possibly wrong, but many mothers in advanced medical countries give birth now with epidurals. And when a mother gives birth with an epidural, what do they get during the epidural? They get large amounts of intravenous fluids. And some of these big, 3-5 liters in 24 hours is actually not that uncommon. And some of this fluid goes to the baby. So when the baby is born, he starts to lose weight because he urinates all this fluid out. So instead of being dehydrated, like so many physicians and nurses and lactation consultants talk about, the baby's actually coming back to normal hydration. So that means that babies are being treated for not enough milk intake just because of the IV fluids. But there is another problem, true. And the problem is that when the mothers receive so much IV fluids, frequently their whole body is edematous. Not only their ankles, not only their fingers, but also the nipples and the areolas. And because of that, some babies have difficulty latching on. So we have to take this into consideration. Whatever we say about 10% weight loss, I should emphasize, it is meaningless. But what the mother needs is not for the baby to receive formula. The mother needs help with breastfeeding, help with latching on, help with making sure the baby is well latched on, and making sure that the baby is actually getting milk from the breast. So, how do we know the baby is getting milk from the breast? I think that if you get the message from this, from the videos I showed this afternoon, that you will know really everything you need to know about breastfeeding. To know if the baby is well latched on and the baby is actually getting milk from the breast is really all you need to know. Because if you know that the baby is getting milk from the breast and how to know, then you also know when the baby is not getting milk from the breast. Okay, so let's look at this first video. This baby is a month old, was brought to our clinic not because he wasn't getting enough milk from the breast, but basically because the mother had sore nipples. And we see a lot of mothers in our clinic with sore nipples. And when we see them, we help the mother with the latching on, because if a mother has sore nipples, it means the baby is not latched on. We're starting to simplify breastfeeding, not make it complicated. A mother who has sore nipples, the baby usually has a good latch. If the baby doesn't have a good latch, the baby may not actually be latched on very well at all, but the mother may not be sore. in any case, the mother brought this baby for sore nipples, and we helped the mother latch the baby on differently from what she was doing. But there was never a question in this baby that he wasn't getting enough milk from the breast. So here's our 1 month old, and what are you going to see? If my hand is the baby's mouth, which my thumb is the baby's chin, and these fingers are the baby's upper lip. When the baby is actually getting milk, and what you're going to see in the video is that the baby will drink like this. Pause, pause, pause. And that pause means I just got a mouthful of milk. The longer the pause, the more milk the baby got. It's so simple, and yet people go on about 10% weight loss, urine output. What does urine output mean when the mother got 3 or 5 liters of IV fluid that she passed on some of it to the baby? Well, the baby will pee just fine, but it doesn't mean the baby is getting a lot of milk. So let's take a look at this video. Where are we? Okay. See that pause there? There. There. Okay, now this is not a pause. He's thinking. Okay, what is he thinking about? When's the milk going to start coming? And when the milk starts coming, the baby starts drinking again. And this is important because it's important to understand that babies respond to milk flow. When the milk flows, they suck and they drink. When the milk flow stops, the baby stops too. So we have this approach to breastfeeding when we say that the baby transfers milk. You've heard this before. Babies don't transfer milk. Mothers transfer milk. Where did we ever get the idea that babies suck milk out of the breast? No, they don't. They don't. And this is where Medela comes in, because there's Palma bottle is saying if babies suck the milk out of the breast just like they do when they're on the breast. But babies don't suck milk out of the breast. And if you want to think about this a little bit, then think about the baby who is asleep over here. Okay? The baby starts to wake up. The baby shows the mother that he's hungry. And sometimes the mother will have a milk ejection reflex, right? The milk will wet her clothing. So who transferred the milk? The baby didn't do anything. Well, he did. What did he do? He let the mother know that I'm hungry. Simple, easy, right. But what are the consequences about having the baby transfer the milk rather than the mother? Because then in the NICU, in the NICU, hold on. Hold on, where is my... Oh, there it is. Okay, so what is the problem of babies transferring milk besides the comma bottom? The other problems are in the NICU. Oh, you can't start breastfeeding until the baby is 34 weeks gestation because the baby will get tired at the breast. Or you can't breastfeed your baby with cardiac problems because there's so much work involved with breastfeeding that you have to get the baby to drink from a bottle first. The idea that the more the baby sucks, the more there will be more milk will there be is also not true. When a baby is just sucking without getting milk, that does not increase the mother's milk supply. So we have all sorts of myths and wrong information about babies when we talk about the baby sucks milk out of the breast. So, who did not see the pause in the chin? Because if you don't see it in this baby, you'll never see it. Okay? So it's obvious, it's easy, and it's proof. Okay. Okay. This next video shows a 2-day-old baby. This baby, will you tell me, is this baby latching on well? And the reason that this mother has to feel she has to stimulate the baby to drink is because the baby's latch is not very good. We'll go into this more in a few minutes, but this baby's got a poor latch, a shallow latch, and his nose is in the breast, and his chin is not in the breast, and he is not getting very much milk. Now, we don't expect a baby at the age of 2 days, before the mother's milk supply increases, we don't expect those babies to be drinking like that first baby I showed you who was a month old. But they should be doing better than what I just showed you there. Let's go on and we'll show you more. Okay. So what about this 12-day-old baby? This baby, he was brought to our clinic at 12 days of age. The baby was not getting milk from the breast. How do we know this? Remember how the baby, the first video looked. Okay, so baby latched on pretty well. She sucks. Does she get milk? No. This nibbling that we see means I don't receive milk. Now this is very interesting, this baby, because she's 12 days old. The baby has never received formula. And I cannot understand, if you think about it, this baby's getting almost no milk. So how did this baby survive to the age of 12 days? And actually it doesn't look that bad. And I think the answer is that this is the first time we ever saw this baby. So I think the answer is that the baby had a very tight tongue tie. I mean, very tight. And I think that what happened was that the mother started off with a very good milk supply. But the milk supply decreased because the baby wasn't getting milk from the breast. And because of that, the milk supply decreased. And so now, even though we corrected the latch, the baby was hardly getting any milk. Now, when we corrected the latch, by releasing the tongue tie, the baby got a little more milk. But I think that the problem was that the milk supply eventually had decreased to the point where even correcting the tongue tie did not help. And this is an important piece of information because I think that if a baby has a significant tongue tie, the tongue tie should be released as soon as it's noticed. The trouble in our hospitals is when we ask the mother, did they look into the baby's mouth to see if the baby had a tongue tie, the mothers almost always said either they said there was no tongue tie or they said, I don't think they ever looked. And that is a crying shame. Okay, just to show you again, 2 babies nibbling and not getting much milk. Just so you know. That's the same baby I just showed you. It's a good latch. The chin's in the breast, but the nose is away from the breast, and the baby covers more of the areola with her lower lip than her upper lip. This is another baby. And as you can see, the baby is hardly drinking. The mother is using breast compressions, which we recommend frequently, and it's not working because the mother's milk supply, for some reason, is way down. Okay, a little bit of advertising there. On the other hand, what about this baby? He is very much like the first video I showed you. This baby is 3 weeks old, never latched on before, but latched on with a little help from our lactation consultant. Now, why did the baby latch on? The baby latched on because the mother had a lot of milk. And I think this is a very important piece as well. The mother was maintaining her milk supply by expressing her milk. Sometimes she was pumping, sometimes she was hand expressing. But her milk supply was maintained. If she had used a nipple shield, which I am completely against, I hate the nipple shields, I think they should be banned. They do nothing to help mothers breastfeed in the vast majority of cases. And if they do help, if the mothers are able to breastfeed exclusively with a nipple shield, then it's because we could have been able to help them without the nipple shield. There's nothing that can be done with a nipple shield that cannot be done better without one. It's an epidemic of nipple shields in our area, Every mother who has the slightest problem with breastfeeding gets a nipple shield. So this baby did latch on because the mother maintained her milk supply, and here for the first time this baby ever latched on. Is he getting milk? Yes. Sure. Nice long pauses. Again, because the mother maintained her milk supply, it was easy for this mother to get the baby to latch on, and easy for us to help that baby to latch on. Once you know the baby is latched on and getting milk, or the baby is latched on and not getting milk, you know where to go from this point on. And I'll speak about that later in the afternoon. Okay, I'll skip this one. Now, this idea of 10% weight loss is going to drive me insane. I think that here we have a perfect example, a baby who is somewhat jaundiced. The baby is jaundiced and so is kept in hospital longer than most babies that we have in hospital. By the way, am I speaking too quickly? No, it's okay? All right. This baby was kept in hospital an extra day, but on the third day, it was noted that the baby was 10% below birth weight. And so the mother was under pressure to give the baby formula. But you see how 10% can lead you in the wrong direction. Let's watch this baby at the breast. Is this baby drinking? Yes. Sure he is. Beautifully, wonderfully. So the mother was seen by one of our lactation consultants, and the mother was told, don't give the baby formula, don't worry about the jaundice, get out of the hospital, and just keep breastfeeding. And the baby did fine. No problems, no issues, lots of weight gain, no sore nipples with the mother. Okay? Beautiful example of how we do it wrong.
And jaundice resolved without formula.
We don't worry about jaundice. If the baby is breastfeeding well, the bilirubin isn't. No, we don't want the bilirubin to come down. We want the bilirubin to be slightly elevated. And why? Because bilirubin is an antioxidant. There are lots of studies that show this, that bilirubin is good for you. In fact, the whole issue here is that bilirubin is an innocent bystander. Bilirubin often rises to help protect the baby against problems. And then we say, oh, look at that bilirubin, that's why the baby got brain damage. No, the baby got brain damage because the baby got dehydrated, because the baby got acidotic, because the baby had electrolyte abnormalities, not because of the bilirubin. Sure, the basal ganglia of the brain were stained yellow, but that wasn't the real problem. The real problem was what precipitated the breakdown in the blood-brain barrier. Yes?
Would you give us a kind of point, just a number that would say that below that is absolutely fine?
No. No. And we have to talk about two different things. First of all, the bilirubin in the first 3 days. Is the baby breastfeeding well? Is there another cause of the higher than average bilirubin? Sometimes babies are hemolyzing. So we can't say automatically that this is okay, because the problem, again, is not the bilirubin. The problem is the hemolysis. Okay? Now, in what we call breast milk jaundice, that's a whole different story too. Breast milk jaundice is normal. I've seen babies with bilirubins of 400. Am I worried about it? No, I'm not worried about it, because these babies with typical breast milk jaundice are bursting with good health. Right? If you look at a baby with breast milk jaundice, they're nice and chubby, they are healthy, they are beautiful, their liver is not big, their spleen is not big, the urine is clear and colorless, and they're yellow. Okay, so what? What's the big deal here? And if you believe me about the bilirubin being an antioxidant, something to protect the baby, then you can say, what's wrong with this? And you can say, nothing. Do babies have biliary atresia? Yeah, sometimes they have biliary atresia. But if they have this biliary atresia, then usually the urine is brownish, and it shouldn't be. A baby who's drinking well, exclusively breastfeeding, will have clear, colorless urine. If they have brownish urine, you better check that liver and spleen. You better check their direct-acting bilirubin. But if this baby is otherwise perfectly normal, don't worry about jaundice. Yes?
But 400 is, for some babies, is on the level of phototherapy. Even
Not my opinion.
So do the best to follow this. We have all our hospital bilirubin chart for jaundice meter. Check the level low, intermediate, or high.
Yes, but there's a difference.
Very high. Sorry.
Yeah. But the problem is that these babies with what I call breast milk jaundice are no longer in hospital. They're 3 weeks old, 4 weeks old. Leave them alone. Okay? I think that, again, as physicians, as pediatricians, definitely, we need to make sure that this is not biliary atresia or another cause of high bilirubin, of direct acting high bilirubin. But if this is all indirect reacting bilirubin and the baby is otherwise healthy, don't do phototherapy, don't do anything. In fact, there's a recent study that shows that the incidence of skin cancer in babies is greater when they've been under phototherapy. We tell all our mothers, put sunblock on all your babies before they go on. And here we put babies under phototherapy 24 hours a day for days on end. And there are studies that show there's DNA damage to their skin. I think we have to start being careful about what we do.
One more. So you don't advise to interrupt breastfeeding for 1 day, even
No.
though
No.
decline, even
No.
400.
No, we don't want the bilirubin to decline.
But we still have some ladies, they are bringing their babies late with very deep jaundice, and we are worried really about kernicterus. Still we are seeing here in this country. So I have to be worried about the liver as 400. It's
The
not-
liver's not a problem.
The level of 400.
Sorry?
Level of bilirubin as 400.
Oh, the level.
Yeah,
I wouldn't worry about it. They don't get kernicterus from bilirubin. They get kernicterus from the breakdown of the blood-brain barrier. And why does the blood-brain barrier break down? Not because of the bilirubin, because of whatever, acidosis. So these babies are not sick, they're perfectly well. So you just have to distinguish between the two. It's not that difficult. And what's not difficult about it is look at this baby, how healthy he looks. He's beautiful. Okay, a baby with biliary atresia may also look healthy, but their urine is not normal, their liver is big, their spleen is big. You want to do a direct bilirubin, fine, do it, but that's a whole different story. And they don't get better with phototherapy, do they? No, they don't. That's right. So the problem is not phototherapy. The problem is make the diagnosis. And if you have a baby with biliary atresia, they have a whole different process. And there's no reason to stop breastfeeding if they have biliary atresia. Okay. I didn't expect that one to take so long. Okay, are people still okay with what I've just said? I mean, if you have objections, tell me. Yes.
Thing is, in our region, I come from Bahrain. We have a lot of reduced G6PD deficiency, a lot of.
You have what?
G6PD deficiency.
Yes.
We have a lot of thalassemia traits and sickle cell disease carriers and traits as well. A lot
Okay.
of those diseases.
Okay, but the G6PD trait, thalassemia trait, sickle cell trait, that's not a problem. That doesn't cause your bilirubin to go up. But the reason that it would go up in, say, G6PD deficiency is the hemolysis. Hemolysis is not treated by stopping breastfeeding. If you have to treat a baby for high bilirubin because of hemolysis, that's a whole different story, but it doesn't mean stop breastfeeding, because stopping breastfeeding does not treat G6PD deficiency, nor sickle cell disease, nor anything else like that. So I think we have to remember there's a good reason to keep breastfeeding. You may have to treat some of these babies because hemolysis, especially if it's severe, can lead to acidosis, anemia, electrolyte abnormalities, and so forth. But that's the problem, not the bilirubin itself. Yes, yeah, somebody said something?
Yeah, sometimes some physicians disturb breastfeeding only for 24 hours just to diagnose microbiology.
Is this is recommended?
No, I do not recommend this at all. What you're telling the mother is that bilirubin is dangerous, that breast milk jaundice is dangerous. It's not. Yeah, we're what do we call this in English? I forgot what we call it in English. We're missing the point. And the point is not the bilirubin. The point is, if this is breast milk jaundice, what we all agree is breast milk jaundice, a healthy, well-gaining, breastfeeding exclusively baby, then this is not dangerous. Read the studies. If you go to our website and look up breast milk jaundice, there are references there that talk about bilirubin being an antioxidant that show that the babies are actually protected against infection when they have bilirubin, higher than average bilirubin. And I don't know if you have this very often around here, but we have people with what's called Gilbert syndrome. These are people that have slightly elevated bilirubins all their lives. And they have, you know what they have less of? I don't know about that, but they have a less frequently, they have lower incidence of atherosclerosis. And what you see in these people is that when they have an infection, like a cold, any sort of infection, their bilirubin goes up. Isn't that interesting? These are people that are not going to get carnivorous, but their bilirubin goes up when they have an infection. Fever, anything. Because what the bilirubin is trying to do is to protect them.
Doctor?
Yes.
I just have something to say. My friend had her baby with
PKU?
yeah, that one. So her baby had jaundice for some time, and it was a little bit high, but she continued breastfeeding, and things were fine for her.
Well, a PKU is a different sort of a problem. It's an enzyme deficiency. And sometimes these babies have to be, in fact, most of the time, they actually do have to have at least some formula. But a special formula.
But she doesn't need to. Because her baby's levels were not too high.
Okay, so there you are.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know about the jaundice in this situation. This PKU is not typically associated with high levels of bilirubin, except that it can cause liver disease. That's a whole different thing. So she may have had two things. The PKU, which was not very serious, she had good enzyme levels, the baby, plus the jaundice that we see with breast milk jaundice. In fact, I don't like to even call it breast milk jaundice. I call it normal. What I say about babies who are formula fed is they have too low bilirubins. No oohs and ahs, okay. All right, what do we have here? I'm gonna have to. Okay, now this baby is something in between. This baby we saw at the age of 2 weeks of age. The baby was referred to our clinic by the family doctor who said that the baby was below birth weight at 2 weeks of age. Now again, we don't know this for sure because the baby was born in hospital, was weighed in hospital, and the doctor saw the baby a day before we saw the baby, and the baby was weighed on a different scale. Obviously, there was one in hospital and one at the doctor's office. What we did know is that the baby was obviously not doing well at the breast. We could see that the baby was not drinking a lot. So we did a number of things. One, we showed the mother how to latch the baby on the way we like to show. Now we like to show how to latch a baby on with what we call a cross cradle hold. Now we like this cross cradle hold because I think that when our mothers are in trouble with breastfeeding, that this is the easiest way to get a good latch. It doesn't have to be this way, but this is what we find is easiest for most mothers to do, and when things are better, they can switch to a normal latch, which we call the cradle hold. Okay, so how do we do that? We teach the mothers to push the baby's bottom in with the side of their forearm. And this pushing in is very important, okay, with the elbow. The mother's hand is then underneath the baby's face, palm up. And when the mother supports her breast, and brings the baby to the breast with a continued push here, the baby will come to the breast with the nipple pointing to the upper lip. So we teach the mother, tickle the upper lip, just a light tickle, wait for the baby to gape, and then bring the baby straight on. Straight on, not a good way of saying it, but instead of scooping the baby up and around. So when the baby comes on the breast, the baby's chin will be in the breast, and the nose will not be. And the baby will cover more of the areola with her lower lip, or his lower lip, than with the upper lip. And then, when the baby gets a good latch, we teach the mother how to know the baby is getting milk. Pause, pause. And then, we teach the mothers, when the baby is doing less and less drinking and more nibbling, then get your hand around the breast, and as the baby sucks, compress the breast. And the baby usually will start to drink again. Keep the pressure up until the baby doesn't drink anymore, and then release. Wait for the baby to start sucking, and when will they start sucking? When they taste the milk, because babies respond to milk flow. Okay, so if the baby is just sucking but not drinking, then compress again. And keep doing this until the baby doesn't drink, even with compression, but don't let the baby get too sleepy. Because if the baby gets too sleepy, the baby may not take the other side. So take the baby off and repeat the process. And that's what we did with this baby. Now watch this baby, and what you can see is the baby drinking some of the time, but not always. Note that the latch is asymmetric, chin in the breast, the nose doesn't touch the breast, and he covers more of the areola with his lower lip than his upper lip. You can see that we took away the baby's arm, so we could see the chin. And so the baby is doing some drinking, but not a lot. There's nibbling, and there's also drinking. And that's what we did with this baby. So, and then, of course, switch. And sometimes you can even switch back to the first breast. And sometimes when the baby wasn't drinking any more on the first breast, they will actually drink some more on the third breast, if you wish. We have some mothers with third breasts, one in the armpit sometimes. I don't know if you've seen that. But we don't usually put the baby to that. Okay. So what happened? Well, basically, I felt that this baby was drinking well enough so that the baby is not going to get into trouble if we wait a couple of days. On the other hand, I really don't think that this is good enough for the baby to gain weight well. So we saw the baby 2 days later, and in fact the baby didn't gain any weight, same weight on the same scale. But more importantly, the baby was drinking more like pause, pause, many more pauses. So we said, okay, we'll see you in a week. A week later, the baby had gained 280 grams. Okay, and never looked back. No supplementation, no galactagogues, nothing. Just because that baby was drinking well enough. So we don't have to rush in with supplementation just because the weight, remember, the weight can fool you. There can be all sorts of problems. Did I mention that about a month ago, we had a baby who gained 1 kilo in 1 week? I said I did. I repeat this too often. I can't remember if I do or not. All right. Okay. Okay. Let me show you the breast compressions the way we teach it. It works, the breast compressions work particularly well in the first few days when the mothers don't have a lot of milk. So let me just show you and we can carry on. Okay, so this baby is 2 or 3 days old, I can't remember exactly. And as you see, babies tend to fall asleep at the breast when the flow is slow. But you see, when the mother compressed, the baby started to drink. Okay, the baby stops drinking, she lets go. She waits for the baby to start sucking. Why does the baby start sucking? Because the baby is now getting flow again. So if they just suck like he did, like there, if he just sucked like the nibble, he would stop sucking. But because she's using the breast compression, the baby gets more milk, and he keeps sucking and keeps getting milk. And here's another baby, same thing, except this is me doing the compression because the mother really didn't get it. So we tried to show her what to do. The baby is 2 days old, again, not drinking very well without the compression. So that's my hand. And see, the baby stops drinking, so I release the pressure, wait for the baby to start sucking, which he will do eventually, one of these days. But you see the asymmetric latch. And let me ask you, why is the asymmetric latch better? We'll come back to that.
So can you explain more what's mean by asymmetric latch?
Okay, I can explain it. Let's finish with this guy here. Okay, so here we have an asymmetric latch. I think that everybody who deals with breastfeeding mothers says the more breast that's in the mouth, the better. Yes? Okay. Now, we see some mothers who've got it backwards. The baby covers more of the areola with his upper lip than his lower lip. And we call that, I suppose, a reverse asymmetric latch. Okay, but why does this asymmetric latch work better than the other asymmetric latch? Why does it work better than a straight-on latch, where it's even, right? Okay, so we all agree that if the more breast that's in the baby's mouth, the better. Now, if the baby has an the other asymmetric latch, where it's the opposite of this, you know what I mean, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, exactly. So that means more of the breast is under the upper gums. But that part of the mouth doesn't move. So it can't stimulate the mother's breast to release the milk. Here, you have more of the breast over the lower gums, and the jaw moves. If it moves, it stimulates the breast to release the milk. And it's better than the straight-on latch. Now, mothers have been doing the straight-on latch forever, but maybe they weren't having problems. Here, in our clinic, not here, there, in our clinic, all the mothers have problems. And when we help them with the asymmetric latch, often no more pain and more milk to the baby. Now, if you can imagine these reverse asymmetric latch, we may have one that I can show you in a minute, then actually the gums are also where? Instead of under the breast tissue, the gum is often right at the nipple. And if the mother has the baby with the gums under the nipple, where? Like with the asymmetric latch, then the nipple is being damaged by the mother's baby's latch. Yes?
For compression of the breast, for how long, for how many days I will continuous tell the mother to make compression of the breast?
Well, the mother doesn't need compression at all if everything is going fine.
Just when the baby's not taking.
When things are, when the baby doesn't seem to be drinking well. I saw, when I worked in Southern Africa, I saw mothers doing this automatically all the time. And, I said, I don't know what that's all about. But, I took it into my brain and I remembered it. And then a few weeks after we started the clinic, we had a mother from South America who came to the clinic and she was doing breast compression. I asked her, why are you doing this? And she said, because my mother told me to do it. All right, fair enough, that's a good reason. But then I asked, yes, but why? And she said, because the baby gets more milk. ... And I thought for sure she was going to say, stupid. And right, why didn't I know that? Because I got trained in breastfeeding in my pediatric training, which means nothing at all. So that's the way it is, and I think that it's very, very important to understand not to intervene when it's all going well. There's no need for a mother who's got everything going well to say, do breast compression. What on earth for? Yes?
Yes, you mentioned switching to the other breast.
Yeah.
Is that something you recommend to all cases, or just
Yes.
the ones with like low milk supply or poor latching or with problems?
Okay, so the question is about switching sides. And I think that you don't always have to feed at both breasts, but I think both breasts should be offered to the baby. Because we have people out there saying to mothers, make sure the baby is getting the high-fat milk, right? You've heard this? Except there's one problem with that. If the baby is only nibbling, he's not getting high-fat milk because he's not getting any milk. Okay, so what did mothers do before we had lactation consultants? They would put the baby to the breast, and the baby would eventually let go of the breast because the milk wasn't flowing. And most mothers would then offer the other side. That's natural. That's the way it used to be. Then we got smart, or rather stupid, and said, let's just make sure the baby gets the high-fat milk. But if the baby is not drinking, the baby is not getting the high-fat milk because the baby is not getting any milk.
But
Now,
then how can you decide at what time interval he got to the
What-
high fat?
no. First of all, there's no watches involved.
Yes.
Okay, the second thing is, remember, if the baby's nibbling, the baby's not getting milk, it doesn't matter if he's not at the high-fat milk. He's not getting milk. So, offer the other side. Now, mothers tend to have more milk in the morning than they do in the evening. So what works in the morning, oh, my baby just took one breast and he's full, look at him, how happy he is, might not work at 7 p.m. when mothers have less milk. And all the mothers will tell you, I have less milk in the evening. If they don't recognize it, as Show pointed out to them, don't just offer one breast at the, because what happens is, oh, the mother says, well, I fed him on one breast and he fell asleep at the breast and now he's crying. So the next step is not offer this. We've gone so unnatural that a mother will not offer the other side when the baby's crying. So what do? They offer formula, and the baby sleeps for 3 hours, and now they're convinced they don't have enough milk. And what's true at, say, 3 weeks of age, when one breast might do it, might not be true at 3 months. So remember, look not at the rules, but is the baby drinking at the breast?
So can I just, I didn't catch when this point of breast compression. So are you recommend breast compression or not recommend it? And what indications do, this is something old fashioned or something you advise and or we learn from the old grandmom? I didn't.
No, I think,
Do you advise to make breast compression?
no, we do not, look, well, I mean, the issue is that nobody comes to our clinic if they're not having problems. They don't just sort of drop by and say, just thought I'd let you know everything's going fine. All the mothers that we see at our clinic are having problems with breastfeeding. So, if the baby is not drinking, if the baby's not getting enough from the breast, this would be one indication. If the mother has sore nipples, can be useful because the baby will spend less time on the breast. There are all sorts of reasons to do it, but again, if everything's fine, why bother? Okay, where am I here? Okay, enough compressions there, but here's a very interesting video. We've always said that the better the baby latches on, that, my God, the time has passed. The better the baby latches on, the more milk they will get. But there's another side to this. And the other side is, the more milk the baby gets, the latch will improve. Okay? So for example, when a baby is not getting much milk from the breast, the baby will slip down on the nipple and maybe cause the mother pain. So we want to keep up the flow. But this video shows the baby has a terrible latch. But when the milk starts to flow, then the baby gets a better latch. In other words, good latch, more milk. More milk, better latch. Watch. Okay, so look, he's hardly latched on. There's nothing going on there. But then the mother has a milk ejection reflex. I'm not too sure exactly what happened here, but the baby got on a little bit better because all of a sudden the milk started to flow. You mean I'm finished at 3? Oh, wow. Okay.
We'll stop questions for now, and we'll take all your questions at the end so we don't waste more time.
Questions are not wasting time.
So we get all the information.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, don't worry about it. Okay, so here we have another problem, a huge problem. There was a time when every mother was told to start supplementing her baby. For example, if the baby was 2 weeks below birth weight. See, we used to hear about all those sorts of mothers. Your baby is two weeks old and still 30 grams below birth weight. Start supplementing, and that we still see in our practice. But we also have this other side of the problem, and that other side of the problem is, don't worry about it. It's okay. The baby will be fine. Just feed the baby on demand. There's not going to be a problem, except that I hope you can tell me what's wrong here. This baby is 5.5 months old, has not gained any weight from 2 weeks of age. The same weight exactly. And I know that you know, I hope, why this baby is not gaining weight. Look at how terrible he looks in the beginning. Okay, so is the baby drinking milk from the breast? No, very little. And what happened in this case is the baby was finally at this age admitted to the hospital. And they did the $1 million workup. What's wrong with this baby? But you could have told the mother right away what's wrong with this baby. The baby's not getting milk from the breast. After 2 weeks of every test in the book, they came up with nothing. And they said, oh, well, the baby must be lactose intolerant. Where did this come from? Only from heaven, I suppose. But you know that this is not what the problem is. And the problem is the babies with lactose intolerant actually usually gain weight just fine. This baby was exclusively breastfed, sort of. Obviously not getting a lot of milk. So, a very good friend of mine, my co-author, told this mother, don't give the baby lactose-free formula. Your baby is 5.5 months. First of all, start the baby on food. What's wrong with that at 5.5 months? Sometimes people don't think, give the baby lactose-free formula. Come on. Okay, so start the baby on food and start yourself on domperidone. We start with a dose of 30 milligrams 3 times a day. And in 1 week, that baby gained 250 grams, more than that baby ever gained in 5 months.
And of course, he fixed the left.
Pardon me?
And of course, he fixed the left.
You mean the left breast?
Well, he fixed the left.
That's shown.
Oh yeah, the latch sauce. No, 30 milligrams 3 times a day. That's our starting dose.
As a galactagogue to increase breast.
Sorry?
Domperidone as a galactagogue.
Yes.
Increase milk flow.
Yes.
So
It
sometimes
works.
you give medication to increase the breast milk flow.
Okay, so here I have a couple of photos to show you. Here's the baby at, where's our baby? Here is the baby at 14 months, still breastfeeding as you see, and as you can see, look at these little, this baby's getting lots of milk and getting lots of food too. But this can be done. If they had started early to deal with this baby's problems or the mother's problems, this would never have happened. And here is the baby at 3 years of age, still breastfeeding with a little baby brother. Okay? And I point this out too because just before she got back to the mother, they saw this baby at the pediatric psychologist's office. And what? The baby was normal developmentally. Because sometimes our doctors, I don't know what doctors do here, but our doctors say, look, if your baby doesn't gain weight, the baby's going to be brain damaged. And they use this as a club to make the mother supplement their babies instead of helping the mother with the breastfeeding. Oops. Okay, what else can I show you? Okay, so here is a 10-hour-old baby. This baby was born, first-time mother, born after 4-hour labor with no interventions. The baby apparently breastfed really well at 0 hours. And then I saw the mother at mother and baby, at 4 hours after birth. And if the baby breastfed at 4 hours the way the baby breastfed at 0 hours, that baby hardly got any milk at all. So I helped the mother with the latching on. I used breast compression to teach the baby how to get milk. And then the video was taken at 10 hours. The baby maybe fed at 0 hours, fed at 4 hours, and fed at 10 hours. Nothing in between. So, in most of our hospitals in Canada and the United States, they would say here oh, you've got to feed this baby every 3 hours. Here too? 2 hours. Okay. Well, the problem with that is that if a baby is drinking nothing every 2 hours, that baby is not better off than a baby who is drinking something every 4 hours or every 5 hours. The idea that the watch determines how frequently you should feed the baby makes no sense at all either. How well does the baby feed? Okay, the baby fed beautifully. I'll show you another video of a 24-hour-old baby. So here's the baby at the breast. Okay, so there you can see pauses. Now that's not a pause. Remember, that's the baby thinking. Okay, so the baby starts to suck again, maybe. Okay, and then you can see short pauses. But short pauses are better than no pauses. All right, and this baby actually did very well. No supplementation in hospital, where he was only for 5 hours or something like that. This is at home, and the baby was never supplemented. Breastfed exclusively until 5 months and 1 week, when the baby seemed so interested in eating that they gave him to eat. And he breastfed until 2 years, and no problems at all. Okay, so.
If the baby was feeding well and latched on well and getting enough milk, do you recommend to feed 2 hours
No.
the first few days?
Get rid of the watch. Forget the watch. Make sure the baby feeds well, not necessarily frequently. Because a baby who's not getting milk from the breast every 2 hours, what difference does that make? You can get nothing from the breast every 4 hours too. But make sure that the baby actually gets milk from the breast. Okay. And let me show you another baby at 24 hours. I'm going to skip down here somewhere. Okay, here's a baby 24 hours old. This baby was drinking well at the breast, but the mother was always wrapping him up so that he didn't wake up. So we helped the mother to latch the baby on. This is not the best latch of all times, but okay, this baby's 24 hours old. I'll tell you later if we get to it why it's sausage. Is he drinking?
Yes.
Sure he is. That's what's important, not how frequently he feeds. And that's what really makes a difference. Because this baby was sleeping a lot. Why? Because he was wrapped up all the time. Okay, so where's Caroline? Not here. Okay. So Caroline is from Slovakia. This is in Slovakia. And they have this phobia about babies getting cold.
It's the same. It's the same
Okay.
number.
Right. So why do we have this phobia about babies getting cold?
They're worried about the AC.
AC?
Yes.
Air conditioning?
About the AC.
No. Okay. Let me tell you my theory. Okay? Because pediatricians know, or they should know, that hypothermia in a newborn baby or a very young baby may mean very serious illness, infection. And if the baby gets infection and they get fever, that's good. If the baby gets infection and gets cold, this is a very bad prognostic sign. So I think that people learned over the years, you have a baby who's sick and it's cold, this is bad. And it's true, it is bad. But just because the baby's cool because they're in air conditioning doesn't mean that they are sick or that they're going to die. Anyway, that's my theory. Anyway, be that as it may, this was a baby who was being wrapped up and so wasn't waking up for feedings very often. The mother said he was full. We took off his clothing and his blankets and he woke up and he was crying. And the problem with that is, if we do that, then the baby doesn't feed often enough. And if the baby doesn't feed often enough, then often the mother at day 3 or 4 will become painfully engorged. Why do mothers get painfully engorged? Because it's normal? No, it's not normal. What the problem is that the baby wasn't feeding well in the first 3 days. Then the mother gets painfully engorged, and then we start to do all sorts of things that we shouldn't be doing. The best thing is to prevent the problem in the first place. There's a few more things I want to get in here. I'll try to leave, time for questions. Okay, where are we? Okay, so now we have other problems that we never realized for many years, and that is what I call late onset decreased milk supply. Mothers who start off with abundant milk supplies, but for some reason, including just feed the baby on one breast at a feeding, including nipple shields, including babies with tongue ties, the milk supply decreases. And often the mothers are told, oh, the baby is fussy because he's not getting enough of the high-fat milk, so just keep him longer on the one breast. Well, the result of that is this. Here's this 4-month-old baby, where are you? This 4-month-old baby here, who is actually still gaining a reasonable amount of weight. But he's not happy at the breast. So, he squirms at the breast. He's not happy at the breast. When we move around so you can see the baby's chin, hardly any drinking at all. The only time when the baby gets a little bit calm is when the mother uses the breast compression and he gets a little bit of milk. But he's not, as you see, he's not happy. And so you'll see he'll pull off the breast, pull at the breast, and eventually he just comes off the breast. And often what they'll do is suck their fingers. And the mother thinks, oh, okay, that's fine. Because sometimes these babies are still gaining weight okay.
And what was the problem with this baby?
The mother was told to feed the baby on one breast at a feeding because she had too much foremilk. You've heard of this before, right? Here's another baby, same thing. Where are you, baby? Okay. This baby is still also gaining weight reasonably well, but look at how unhappy he is at the breast. You know why these babies do well at the breast? Because at night they feed very well. See how he pulls away from the breast? He's not happy. He's got a terrible latch, by the way. And the only time he stays there for a few seconds is when the mother uses some breast compression. He's 5 months old. He looks at the cameraman and says, help me. What's with the camera? Just tell her what to do.
So what's the advice you give to this mother to correct this position?
Increase the milk supply. Well, first of all, feed both breasts at each feeding. Feed both breasts at each feeding. The trouble is that sometimes mothers are told this, and they just feed the baby on the one breast, the baby falls asleep. And the thing is that, let us say, as an example, that the baby gets 80% of the milk in the first breast. Okay? Often a baby will just fall asleep and be completely asleep, so that when the mother takes the baby off, he doesn't seem to be interested in the other side, because he had a pretty good feeding. But that, if you do it all the time, will result in the milk supply going down. And that's exactly what happened there.
Yeah. I had a mother last week. She's Canadian mother. She's
Okay, well that's why I should have known anything about breastfeeding.
So she's just breastfeeding. But the strange thing that I haven't met a mother like this. She was only breast from one side. And the reason when I asked why, because her milk is too much, and
Yeah.
maybe it gets satisfied from one side. Then I haven't I told her, but you have next time to start with the other breast, so just make alternation.
Well, at least
That's right.
offer. If the baby's full, the baby won't take the other side. So don't assume, offer. If the baby is not hungry, the baby won't take it. If the baby's still hungry,
falls asleep,
pardon me?
even if the baby falls asleep at the breast.
Well, yeah, that doesn't mean that he's full. It means that the milk is not flowing.
But baby's gaining weight, baby was fine.
Yes.
Baby was fine and he's gaining weight.
Yes.
So I told her it's okay, it's up to you. But next time, you breast from the other side.
Offer,
So, to keep
offer
it
is
low.
not the same thing. Offer, oh, you mean she was feeding only on one breast?
Yeah, one
Just the left, per
Yeah,
se.
yeah. One side, one.
She never gives the right.
No. It's just every time he has full breastfeeding.
Offer,
That's fine.
offer the other side.
Yeah.
If the baby doesn't want it, the baby won't take it. Okay, quickly. I want to give at least 15 minutes for questions. Here, typical behavior when the mother's milk supply has decreased. You see how he pulls off, he goes back, he's not happy at the breast. He looks at the mother, he says, Mom, come on. Okay. Here's another one. Same thing, pulls off. What is this knot? What's going on here? Well, further, he's got a lousy latch. But why does he have a lousy latch? Because the flow of milk is not fast. This is not reflux. This is not allergy to something in the milk. This is, mother has had a decrease in the milk supply. I don't remember why in this case, but it's one of the ones I mentioned. One breast at a feeding, nipple shield, she wasn't using a nipple shield. On the birth control pill, that's another reason the milk supply decreases.
Maybe it's a little confusion. Maybe the baby.
No, this baby's never had the bottles.
This baby.
None of these babies I'm showing you. That would confuse the issue even more. Okay, one more thing. These 4 videos are the same baby taken in about 5 to 7 minutes. Okay? So this is another case in this 3-month-old baby of late onset decreased milk supply. So here we have, and again, I think if I remember, now his latch is not so good, and that's probably the cause of the problem. Okay? But the drinking is good here, yes? Drinking really well. Okay. Then, a couple of minutes later, where are we? Here. Still drinking, but the pauses aren't so long anymore, right? It's not bad. Could be all right. But, okay, not so great. Then, a few minutes later, the mother was told to use breast compressions, and it works for a while, but you can see it's not working that well. That's because the milk flow had decreased. The milk supply has decreased. And our lactation consultant is pointing out how to know the baby's actually getting milk from the breast. Okay? And then, and you'll see the reason that mothers will get late onset sore nipples when the milk supply has decreased. So here's the baby, it's no longer working even with compression. The baby is starting to fuss at the breast, starting to drink almost nothing. Even with the breast compression, the baby doesn't drink. He's starting to pull at the breast. Yeah, did you see why the mother gets sore nipples there? All right, that hurts, and that shouldn't happen. And here, some of the mothers will say, well, my baby's not fussy. The baby is okay. What are you telling me? I have lots of milk. Well, except that the baby is not fussy. This 6-month-old who's spending his time sucking his fingers. So he's happy. It's like giving him a pacifier. But this is not good. And look at him. Nobody's going to say this baby is skinny. But this baby was doing at the breast just what you saw these other babies doing. The baby's not happy. They pull at the breast. They cry at the breast. They refuse the breast. They actually will start to refuse the breast eventually. And when we see them at 3 or 4 months of age, this has been going on for a long time. But the mother only starts to realize that something is not quite right at 3 or 4 months. But this has been going on since, very early on. But because the mother started off with a very large milk supply, then the baby seems okay. Everything's fine.
It was gaining weight, okay.
Yeah. So this is why the weight alone is not important. It's the baby's behavior. Some of the mothers, some people think that this is normal to suck your fingers at 6 months. No, it's not. And you look at babies who are doing beautifully at the breast, they don't suck their fingers at 6 months or 4 months or any other time. Okay, here, tongue tie, here's my release of a tongue tie. Okay, that's all it takes. Clip, push, lip tie. I'm not convinced that lip ties are a big deal, but some of the mothers are, and we do it. If we're going to do the tongue tie, we'll do the lip tie as well. Tongue ties, here we go.
Without anesthesia?
Of course without anesthesia. It takes 1 second. It takes less time than to use the anesthesia.
We have a great problem.
Well, yeah, I know. Why would you give general anesthetic to a newborn baby? I mean,
We have a great problem in the Arab region and in Egypt also for tongue tie.
well, they have to learn something. Okay, just a couple more things I want to show you before I start, before I open for questions. This is from Slovakia, this video. This is a mother and a father who were taught about the baby, the way the baby crawls up to the breast. The father has called this video babies versus computers, or computers versus babies. And the reason is that the baby was crawling up to the breast and the baby was about to latch on or already latched on, but the nurse wants to take away the baby. You'll see her hand trying to pull the baby away. So here's the baby, just born. That's babies versus computers in Slovak. Okay, so this is an hour-long video that's been edited down to 1 minute and 40 seconds. Okay, so you see the baby still has his vernix. Now, he started off with 1 blanket, now he has 2 blankets. You know what I said about Slovakia. They have this fear of babies getting cold. By the end of this video, he'll have 3 blankets and a cap. But we know that babies skin to skin with the mother stay warm. Okay, so he's almost there. You'll see the video, you'll see the hand in a second. The nurse's hand about to take the baby away. See, this is a natural process. There's the hand. She's going to take the baby away. She's disrupted the whole process. But he gets it. He figured it out anyway. But what's interesting is that this latch is terrible. It shouldn't become terrible. Okay, oops, wrong way. Okay, so here is a 36-week gestation baby. Somebody's come up with the idea that a 36-week gestation or a 35-week gestation baby can't breastfeed. They can. Of course they can. This is just the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine that comes up with protocols that make no sense at all. Anyway, this baby crawled up to the breast. Oh, hold on. Is the baby, he crawled up all by himself? Is he drinking? You see the pauses in the chin? Right, exactly. He's beautiful. He's drinking like man. He's great. Okay, and where am I here? Up here, okay. So here's a 34-week gestation baby, 1 day old. Drinking or not drinking? Of course he's drinking. Look at him go. How can we say that this baby at 34 weeks gestation at 1 day of age can breastfeed, but that 36-weeker cannot? This one was, I forgot. What did I say? 34 weeks, okay. And here is a 29-week gestation baby. Yes, he's being supplemented at the breast with this lactation aid, but he's latched on and breastfeeding. A 29-weeker can do it. He is drinking. You don't see the pause? Okay. And here, for the neonatologist, something to really drive them crazy. This baby is 27 weeks gestation. He was born minutes before this video was taken. Watch his chin. Is he drinking? It's hard to see, but he is. He is. It can be done. This is not from Canada, because you'd never see something like this in Canada. This is from Sweden, where they actually believe in
Not
breastfeeding.
even here.
No, I know.
Not even here.
This reflex is mature enough in such a young age.
I leave it to you. The baby didn't crawl up to the
Just
breast.
individual variations.
Yeah, but this, no. This baby did not crawl to the breast, but he was put to the breast. But he latched on and he breastfed. If it's possible for one baby to do it, it's possible for all babies to do it virtually.
27 weeks, first day.
27 weeks.
Not an AS breakfast support.
No, he's 1 day old. I mean, he was just born, not 1 day old. He's not even 1 day old.
Not even option, not even this.
Okay, hang on here, hang on.
Can we see number 25A?
25A, oh yes, okay, so this is a photo. This is also in Slovakia, and the mother's other breast looks exactly the same. She's had 4 babies.
It's inverted. No?
Well, we'll see. The baby is, she's had 4 previous babies, never latched on. Sorry, 3 previous babies, never latched on. Then they said to me, here, you smart guy, you put this baby to the breast. And what? Where is it? Oh, here's the baby at the breast, 5 hours old.
Big mouth.
Yeah, the other breast looked exactly the same as that first breast.
Was he taking bottles?
I don't remember. But he's only 5 hours old. Okay? It can be done. Okay, and I give you some more that can be done. Hold on. So much that I need to show you. Okay, so here is a baby who has hydrocephalus, a month old. The mother was told the baby will never breastfeed, and I guess the baby didn't read the book because he's breastfeeding just perfectly. Okay, here's a baby with a cleft palate, cleft lip, Down syndrome, and a heart murmur. I can't remember what sort of heart murmur. Okay, so the baby is fussing at first because the baby's not getting milk. But then the milk starts to flow, and the baby is drinking. In Toronto, they say a baby with a cleft palate can't latch on. Sorry, this baby latched on. Okay? Again, he fusses when the flow slows, but when he gets milk, there he goes. He drinks, right? And what do you think this is? It's a tear. And it's a tear from the mother because she was told the baby will never breastfeed. And I do not believe that mothers don't want to breastfeed. They do want to breastfeed. Here, you can see his cleft lip here, but of course you can't see his cleft palate. Mothers want to breastfeed. We just make it impossible for them. And here's another baby with a cleft palate. Latched on, but again, being supplemented in this case with a lactation aid at the breast. He's got bilateral cleft palates. Okay. And here's a baby who's almost a year old, never had problems with breastfeeding, but you'll see that babies, if you've had a toddler, you know that babies can do breast compressions themselves. They want more milk, that's why. Okay, and here's a mother, not a mother, a child. How do we learn to breastfeed? You know, people are so crazy. We put this video on YouTube, and they deleted it because it was because it was porno, I guess. People are crazy. Okay, so I didn't show you all the videos, but I think we have about 10 minutes for more questions if you have them. That's it?
I have a question.
Yes.
Regarding the inverted nipple, did you do anything or it was
No.
just okay?
No,
Nothing. You
we did nothing except help that baby to
help
latch.
with the latch and the baby breastfed perfectly.
You saw?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask if there was anything that.
No, we did nothing. The only thing we did is when the baby got onto the breast, I told the mother to compress her breast so the baby gets some milk. And the baby got some milk and stayed.
Thank you.
Yes, anybody?
Um,
We'll get your feedback there in a minute.
okay.
I have facing some problems with mother who is telling baby is sleeping too much. We know as a neonatologist that baby can sleep from 12 to 18 hours per day. It's not continuous, but sometimes sleep for 6 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours. So mother keep asking me, baby, my baby is sleeping for 4 hours, 6 hours, and when I try to wake him up, it's not responding even his sleep. This is a common question, common problem.
How old is how old are the babies?
Babies newborn will be coming, usually coming to my clinic on day 3 or day 4, day 5.
That's
They are
because
sleeping much.
chances are that these babies are not getting milk enough. When the milk comes in, then the babies will start to drink more. But if babies are sleeping too long, I mean, you need to watch the baby at the breast. This is very important. And if the baby is drinking really well, there's no problem. If the baby is not drinking well, then there is a problem. If the baby is sort of in the middle, then fix the latch, use breast compressions, and the baby will get more milk. And the more milk they get, the more frequently the baby will wake up. Interesting, no?
Yeah. But how many times, for example, mother ask this question again. Per day, how many times feeding expected to this baby newborn?
Well,
6 times, 8 times.
when the baby can tell time, that's when you know, that's when you tell her how many times to breastfeed. Remember, everything comes back to pause, pause, pause. Okay, there was a question right at the back there somewhere.
Is it possible that when the baby's born, mother has enough milk and then milk supply decreased because of the tongue tie, and then with doing all the recommendations, the milk supply never picks up?
Yes, it is possible because we don't know how long. I mean, we have. Help. We don't. Yes, I think it's off. We don't know how long it might take for the milk supply to decrease. So we have seen babies who go to the breast and they nibble, 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 nibble. At 3 days, say, 4 days, we release the tongue tie and the baby starts to drink like crazy. But after a while, if the baby is just nibbling, 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 then the milk supply will decrease. And at some point, you have to do something to increase the milk supply again, or to supplement the baby at the breast so that the baby gets more milk.
So even with supplementation and even with nursing aids, there is a possibility that the milk never goes back to the normal supply.
Well, we don't know, do we? Because we don't see them until we see them, if you see what I mean. That's a lot of C's. So, in other words, this is a place where you can do, if you see babies in the first few days after birth, and you help that mother to breastfeed, this is an article that needs to be written, a study that needs to be written.
Thank you.
Yes.
You spoke about releasing tongue ties that if gone undetected, it can cause late onset decreased milk supply.
Well, even if they're detected, if nobody does anything about them, then there's a problem there too, yeah.
So, would you recommend that all lip ties, all tongue ties should be released?
That's a very
at the beginning of.
It's a very difficult question. We see from time to time mothers who come to our clinic, say at 2 weeks of age, not the mother's 2 weeks, the baby's 2 weeks, that, the baby has a definite tongue tie. Mother has no pain. The baby is beautifully drinking at the breast and is gaining weight well. What do we do about that? See, Well, I don't know if we do nothing or not. It's a very difficult question because we see the babies, a lot of babies at 4 months, with fussing at the breast, crying at the breast, refusing the breast, and they have a very tight tongue tie. And then the question is, should it have been done? Well, we didn't see them usually, but should it have been done in the hospital? Or at 2 weeks when we see them, or at 3 weeks, whatever it is that we see them. And I now feel that it should be done early. Now, you can also take another way. You can say, it's possible that your milk supply will decrease. Here's what you need to look out for. Baby fussing at the breast, baby sucking his fingers, blah, 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 and so on. And then we can do the tongue tie release. Then we can put you on domperidone to increase the milk supply. But really, I think that if you weigh what happens later against what we can fix really early on, I think we should fix early on. Now, the one question that I need to put to myself is, well, we see these mothers because they're having problems. For everyone that we see has problems, there could be 100 out there that are having no problems at all. And we've released the tongue tie at 2 or 3 weeks when we didn't need to. So it's something you have to weigh. And some of the mothers will say to us, no, I don't care, I want it released. And other mothers will say, definitely, I will wait, I'll let you know if there's a problem. And I don't know what the right answer is because, as I say, for everyone we see, there could be 1,000 that have no problems later on.
But they didn't have a problem, they didn't come to you. She came.
Yeah, no, they come to us because somebody told them the baby has a tongue tie. But they may have no problem at all. That's unusual. They usually come because there is a problem, but in some cases, we saw 2 last week. There was absolutely no problem with the mother. No sore nipples, no problems with the baby drinking at the breast. One said that she will wait, and the other said that she wanted it done.
And for the late onset decreased milk supply, it's usually always domperidone.
No, not necessarily. I do, put them on domperidone because if you do a tongue tie release at that point, then often the baby will refuse the breast. If you give them the domperidone first, the milk supply will increase and the chances of the baby refusing the breast are much lower. But also, let's say the baby's 6 months old. You can say, well, okay, why not just give the baby food? And the answer is, of course, you can do that, but it's still important for that baby to get decent amounts of breastfeeding and breast milk.
So after mother and baby are doing well at breastfeeding, then she develops late onset decreased milk supply. What are the reasons?
Well, the reason is for the late onset decreased milk supply, what I mentioned earlier, one breastfed feeding, birth control pill. Any hormonal method of birth control can decrease the mother's milk supply. Scheduled feeding, sure. Did I say one breastfed feeding? Okay, tongue tie and a poor latch. So any poor latch will result in the milk supply decreasing.
But if everything is okay, shouldn't she?
Well, then we don't see them.
No, some mothers keep complaining that I have.
Then if they're complaining, then something should be done.
Yes, regarding the switching the breast, how about regarding the switching the breast? How about first relatch on the same breast before switching to the other breast?
Why would you do that?
I'm asking.
No.
How
why?
about that?
If the baby's already not drinking, what's going to change with relatching the baby on the same side?
Thank you.
I'm not the one that's choosing, doctor.
Hello. I just have a question. Is there any initiative to get breastfeeding training into medical schools and into at least training pediatricians?
We tried, but they're not listening.
Good afternoon. I had a patient yesterday.
Where are you? Oh, there.
Yeah. The patient had a very similar nipple to the one that you showed, the one that looks like inverted, but it's less severe than that. And the baby was 2 months old, was born with a 2.7 kilogram, and yesterday she weighed 3 kilograms. the baby was supplemented with formula, of course, and the mother
Not of course.
No, here in Kuwait, that's what they do.
Oh, okay.
But so the patient was asking me, did I come late to you? So I said, no, it's okay. We can still
Latch the baby on.
latch the baby on, and I tried to help her. It wasn't easy at all, but suddenly her sister comes in. She opened her shirt off. She took the shirt off, and the baby was latched perfectly with
the sister.
With the sister.
But she didn't have an inverted nipple.
No. So it was really difficult, and all I had to do is to reassure the mother. But what else can I do to reduce the formula? And
Well, was the baby latching on at all?
after like an hour, almost an hour, yes, she did, but it wasn't perfect.
Well, you see the tube that I showed. That would be a way to get the baby off the bottle, because the baby on the bottle interferes with the way the baby latches on to the breast. So let's stop using bottles even if the mother's producing no milk. Look, the tube at the breast, first of all, keeps the baby at the breast. And second of all, the milk supply will increase if the baby is being fed at the breast. And the most important thing is, if you tell me a mother is producing no milk at all, zero, I would still recommend that the baby be supplemented at the breast with the lactation aid, because breastfeeding is not just about milk. It's about a close, physical, intimate relationship between two people who are in love, usually. So why not breastfeed? Is it better to give the baby just formula with a bottle or just formula at the breast? I would say it's just at the breast, it's good, even if the mother produces no milk. I think it's your turn.
Hello. I'm here. I want to ask about nipple pain. I have a mother that has been struggling, like almost the baby's 1 month and a half now. She's still in pain. We checked the latch. The latch seemed perfectly. The baby seems perfectly latched. There's no signs of tongue tie. Yet the mother is still in horrible pain, and the nipple comes out like it's a wedge.
Well, then the latch is not good. No matter what it looks like from the outside, if the nipple comes out as a wedge or a lipstick shape, then the latch is not good. And I will guess that baby actually does have a tongue tie. And I think the problem with tongue ties is that people look and they say, it's not a tongue tie. But what you really need to do is put your finger on either side of the frenulum and try to lift that tongue. And if the tongue does not lift, that's a tongue tie. I don't care what it looks like. Oh, and our ointment works very well, by the way. And by the way, there's no patent on that ointment. It's not like I'm pushing it because it's making me $1 million. It's because it actually works.
Is it available in the region? Because I live in Jordan. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Hold it. Stop. Okay. It contains 0.1% betamethasone ointment and mupirocin ointment, and you can find it on our website. The problem in many countries, we also use miconazole powder to mix in with it, but if you can't get miconazole powder here, which you can't in many countries of the world, then just do the first two ingredients. That almost always works. But remember, the ointment is not a definitive treatment. It's a stopgap. In other words, this will help with the pain, but we've got to fix the problem really.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is the end of our session. We'll have a break, and if you're looking for the second session, you're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sorry.